The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anoint my head in oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This was my dad's favorite verse. He had it tattooed on his arm. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with love. I'm overwhelmed with sadness. I'm overwhelmed with anger. But today I'm mostly overwhelmed with support. I would like to ask for a moment of silence, and during this moment of silence, I would like for you to look around. I would like for you to look around and see how many people my dad affected. I want you to look around and soak in this moment. I did speech competitions when I was younger. I hated speaking in front of people, but my dad would always help me practice. He brought me to his office once. I couldn't have been more than 10 or 11. And he had me stand on his desk, and I practiced my gold merit speech in front of a room full of officers. Some of you here today might have been lucky enough to enjoy that show. Needless to say, I was more prepared for that speech than I am for this one. Everyone keeps asking me if I'm gonna be able to get through this today, but I think everybody forgets that I'm just as hard-headed as my dad was. Today there isn't a choice. I get to do this one time, and I have to make sure that I do it right. At the end of the day, I really just need everyone to know that my dad was more than just a cop. He was a brother, he was an uncle and a friend, but most importantly, he was a husband and a father and a grandfather. I am the only person in this entire world that got to experience him as a dad. And I want to share a little bit of all of that with you the best way that I can today. He started every phone call and every voicemail and every visit with, "Hey, kid." I can hear it on repeat, clear as day in my head. "Hey, kid, how are you doing? Hey, kid, I miss you. Hey, kid, how's Lacie?" What I wouldn't give to be able to hear that today. My dad loved greeting cards. For every event, there was a card. And in every card, he would underline all of the important words for emphasis. And then in every card, he would also have a handwritten message. But my favorite one was when I was accepted into Texas A&M. At the bottom of the card, it said, HNB. I was with my mom at the time, and I asked her if she knew what HNB meant, but she didn't have a clue. So I called him, and in the midst of that conversation, I asked him, I said, "Hey, Dad, what does HNB mean?" And I could feel him roll his eyes through the phone, and he said, "Hold nothing back, duh." Like I was supposed to know that. I'm pretty sure he just made that up. One of the biggest things that me and my dad would argue about growing up was socks. His were always too long. Sometimes they would be all the way up, sometimes they would be folded over, sometimes scrunched down, but no matter what, they were always too long and they were always too embarrassing. I tried for years to get him to wear ankle socks, but it just wasn't going to happen. One day we were together, and he waited a couple hours in, and he yelled, "You didn't even notice." And I was very confused, but then he kicked his leg up and he said, "You like my new socks?" I'm pretty sure he never wore long socks again after that day. My dad could sleep anywhere. I'm convinced that one of his favorite spots was on a bale of hay, because at every Longhorn show we went to, he would be asleep on one at some point during the weekend. He was also the scariest person to wake up because he woke up startled or swinging. I remember on Sundays, I would hear his alarm going off for church, but he wouldn't budge. So I would go to his room to try to wake him up. I would be tossing things at him from across the room to gently try to wake him without getting too close. But it usually ended with me grabbing one of his golf clubs out of the garage and poking him from the end of the bed to keep from accidentally getting laid out. My dad was the everywhere man. If you needed him, he was there. From softball or baseball games to choir concerts to state fairs, from California to North Carolina and Louisiana and New Hampshire. He would fly across the country for any family function, and you wouldn't have to ask him twice. My dad didn't have any living brothers, but I somehow wound up with so many uncles. Uncle Paul, Uncle Eric, Uncle Brian, Uncle Jake, and that's only to name a few. He loved his friends, and he loved them hard. I have heard so many people over these last few days tell me that he came to all my kids' games, or he was there when my child was born. He was everywhere, and he wouldn't have had it any other way. I can't tell you how many times he drove to Smithville just to spend a few hours with me and Lacie. He would spend more time driving than visiting, but he didn't care. As long as he got to spend time with his grandbaby, that was all that mattered. I promise with every ounce of my being that my daughter will remember GB, and she will always know how much he adored her. He would have moved mountains for us. On one of our trips to California when I was about 19 or 20, my cousin Amy and I decided that it would be a good idea to shotgun a beer. And anyone that knows my father knows that he was not a drinker. So seeing his niece and his underage daughter chugging a beer was borderline barbaric. Amy looked at me and said, "Oh no, your dad's giving me the cop eyes." And I looked over across the room, and sure enough, he was giving me that look. And if you know my dad, you know that look. It was the look that could shut any party down. My dad gave me 2 rules in life. Don't be a cop, don't marry a cop. And he did both of those things. He was more of a do as I say and not as I do kind of guy. I had to write an opinion essay on gun control my freshman year of college, and my dad was so excited because this was right up his alley. He drove up to College Station just for the day to help me write it. One of the main points that he helped me make is that gun control and gun laws do not keep guns out of the hands of criminals. He has always said guns don't kill people, people kill people. And today is proof of that. This could have easily been avoided. And I really hope that this is the wake-up call that the leaders of this city need to start doing things the right way. My dad would have done anything for Houston. He loved his city, he loved his job, and he loved his team. He loved each and every one of his guys like a brother. My daddy took those bullets so those guys didn't have to. He was their leader, he is their hero, and he is my hero. And I am so proud of him. I will miss him every single day for the rest of my life, and I will do everything in my power to keep his memory alive until the day that I meet him in heaven's gates. There are not enough words to express how grateful I am to each and every one of you that are here today. Thank you just does not seem like enough. We have a long road ahead of us, but if I can ask anything from any of you, it is to live your life to the fullest, remind your family how much you love them, and hold nothing back. Thank you.